The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, greetings. Welcome to another presentation in this public service nation building series, The Law and You. This is program 900. Coming to you on Monday the 28th of May 2018. On this program, I will speak to you on the topic, the Attorney General's Reference Act 2018, which in a sense is a continuation of the last program I did live 2 weeks ago. As you would recall, last week was a public holiday, no law and you, and the week before that I was unfortunately absent from the studio. But before getting into the topic, there are quite a few preliminary matters I want to touch upon, so there would just be about 10 or 12 minutes of the actual topic. Firstly, and as usual, I would like to send out condolences to those families which have suffered recent bereavements. And I can recall the families of the late Father Calvert Friday, particularly his son, Bishop Friday. My deepest condolences. To our dear beloved client, Miss Lena Holder of Byra. To my first cousin, Tatata Cunningham, also known as Brown, of Barley, all laid to rest in recent days. Secondly, I would like to thank those persons, whoever they may be, who nominated me for the Searchlight Award Best of St. Vincent and Grenadines. I was nominated in the category of television presentation, and I want to congratulate Miss Laverne Fraser on having won that category. I don't know, not a single soul, told me that they were planning to nominate me or had nominated me, but whosoever you are, thank you very, very much. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend the function yesterday evening, because our church had a memorial service as part of National Spiritual Baptist Day 2018 at St. Elizabeth in Belmont, at which we paid tribute to the stalwarts of the Spiritual Baptist faith who have passed on. And I therefore couldn't go to the function at the community center, but I was represented by 2 of my children. So I didn't mean to snub the organizers by not showing up personally. Thank you once again. And from what my children reported, they thought it was a very good idea that Searchlight has been inaugurated to highlight persons in various walks of life for their contribution to nation building. And congratulations to all of the winners in all of the categories, and indeed to all of the nominees in all of the various categories of service in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Let me send get well wishes to 2 persons of my knowledge who are in the hospital. 3 persons, in fact. Firstly, our patriarch, Bishop John. He has been hospitalized. He went in on Saturday. I understand he is not doing too well, and we send out our prayers for him and prayers for Mother John, his wife, and Latoya, the granddaughter who lives in the home. Also to Bishop Hollis Charles, whom I met at the hospital, Milton Cater Memorial, when I went to visit yesterday. Bishop Charles, I hope you are doing well. and I wish you a speedy recovery. And also, I can't readily recall the name, but the father of Otis. Otis was there when I visited yesterday, Otis Oliver, and I want to wish you, Otis, and all the rest of the family all the best on behalf of your father, and hope he is recovering. Now, the hurricane season officially is to be launched on the 1st of June, but unofficially the hurricane season has started. We heard news of Hurricane Alberto, the first hurricane of the season, which is now threatening some of the southern United States bordering the Gulf of Mexico. So that it isn't too early for us here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to start taking precautions, and as time goes by, the authorities would advise, as they always do from year to year, what should be done. And let me make a special plea once again, as I have been doing for years. Get rid of overhanging trees. If you have any trees which are overhanging a dwelling house in which people live, and you look at the tree and see where it is and realize if wind blows over that tree, it could fall on a dwelling house or in part of a dwelling house, do what you can to cut it down. Don't tell me, well, it's a breadfruit tree and so on. You could always get breadfruit from other sources, but if that tree, being a breadfruit tree, falls on a house and goes right through and damages or injures one or more of the occupants, or even brings death, then it doesn't make sense to say it's the only breadfruit tree you have in the yard, and if you get rid of it, you wouldn't have any breadfruit tree, because if it takes a life, then you would not be justified in leaving it there if it poses a danger. Now, there might be a tree that is a distance from a house, and nobody would be able to predict that that tree could fall and damage a house. So that in cases where it was not likely that the tree, if blown down, would cause damage, I could understand people saying, well, leave that tree alone. But in other cases, there are houses built right under coconut trees, literally on top of the house, brushing the galvanized. So that if that coconut tree falls, it is going to come down and most likely damage the roof and so look at where you are situated, and if there's a tree which is posing a danger, get rid of it. Don't wait until it is too late and say, well, if I didn't know. Okay? Excuse me. Final preliminary matter I want to speak about are the recent elections in Barbados held last week, Thursday, the 24th of May. As everybody knows by now who has listened to any newscast, the Barbados Labour Party, which was the opposition party in Barbados, swept the polls and won all 33 seats in the House of Representatives. First time in the history of Barbados that any political party has won all of the seats. Congratulations to Prime Minister P.R QC and her team. But I feel a certain sense of sorrow for the new Barbados government for these reasons. I happened to have passed through Barbados about 3 weeks ago. In fact, I had to overnight in Barbados on my way to Jamaica. And having lived in Barbados in the early 70s, in fact, having gone to Cave Hill and spent one further year in Barbados, I have come to know and cherish and love Barbadians. In fact, I belong to a spiritual Baptist church in Barbados, as well as the one here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. So I made it my business to get in touch with a few people, you know, and I telephone and find out how things are going. And in particular, I listen to the taxi drivers at the airport. Now, taxi drivers in any country are a fountain of local trends, local opinions, local knowledge. And when I came back home, I told my family, look, the government of Barbados is going to fall, which I had sensed from early in the year, when the outgoing Prime Minister of Barbados did something which I found politically strange and which I thought would cost him dearly in the election. He allowed the life of the government to expire, that is, the 5-year mandate he was given, and took advantage of the additional 90-day period which most constitutions in the Caribbean allow an existing government to last before elections are due. The Democratic Labour Party government had become unpopular years now. For about 10 years, Barbadians have been undergoing real hardships. Salary freezes, laying off in the public service, the deterioration of public services, sewage overflows in the southwestern and southeastern parts of Barbados, and other things. And the pressure was on and people were lamenting, but the government appeared not to be bothered. So that people wanted elections. And there was speculation since last year that, oh, the government might call elections, might call snap elections. Well, okay. But then the life of the government ran out. The 5 years were up. And the Prime Minister did not call election, did not set a date for election. And I got it from some Barbadians that people were highly annoyed. People were infuriated, frustrated that here was a highly unpopular government and wouldn't set a date for them to go to the polls, so that when they went to the polls on the 24th of May, they voted with a vengeance to fling the government clean out of the window. Who would have thought? I mean, nobody would have dreamt that in Barbados, where people are so level-headed and, you know, support for the parties over the years, ding-dong, but each party had a bedrock of support that would guarantee them at least, you know, 10 to 15 seats even when things went bad. Who would have thought that the electorate of Barbados would reject the government 30-0? Now that tells me that there may well be a trend in the Caribbean where people, when they move decisively and in numbers. And it's not just a matter of the oppositions in the Caribbean overthrowing government, because in Grenada recently, the government in Grenada swept the polls. The governing party swept the polls, and the people flung away the opposition because they said the opposition were doing nonsense. So that there is a lesson here for politicians throughout the Caribbean. Whether you're in government or opposition, You do nonsense, you will be flung away by the electorate. All politicians in the Caribbean should take warning. The people seem to have become more militant than they used to be. They're not skylarking, they're taking their democratic rights seriously. And if you don't come strong, out you go. Now, we heard on Sunday that the new Barbados Prime Minister had named a cabinet of 26 members, the largest cabinet in the Commonwealth Caribbean. Not even Jamaica, with their millions of population, has a cabinet that big. 26 of the 30 elected MPs are members of the cabinet. And the incoming Prime Minister, in her speech, and I listened, and if you want to listen, you just have to go on YouTube and type in New Barbados Government or Barbados Prime Minister, and you will get endless extracts on YouTube. You'll be able to listen to the whole speech that Ms. Motley gave when her cabinet was sworn in, because she was sworn in on Saturday, Friday, I think. Yeah, she was sworn in. She and the Attorney General sworn in on Friday, and then the rest of the cabinet sworn in on Sunday. She practically apologized for the size of the cabinet, but she said, look, the few extra salaries that we have to pay to the extra ministers would be nothing compared to the financial savings which would be made by the government as they move to cut out waste. Now, the Barbados economy has been said to have been in crisis for some time. And Ms. Motley made no bones about going to the IMF. She said that was one of her campaign pledges. She said, if we have to go to the IMF, when we have reviewed the economic situation, we will do so, but we will be transparent about it. And the people I know in Barbados who study these things tell me that the Barbados economy is in alarming condition. And if something isn't done soon, there would be financial crises in Barbados. So we must give our prayers for the new government of Barbados, congratulate the people of Barbados on the exercise of their democratic franchise. And you know, Barbados is one place, people might have their political quarrels, but you don't hear about election violence in Barbados. Barbadians are very disciplined when it comes to their politics. They will quarrel, but they don't fight. And I want to congratulate the people on having a peaceful transition in Barbados. We shall keep them in our prayers and hope for the best, because lots of Vincentians live in Barbados, and there are many Barbadians who have been living with us for a number of years. Well, we have even less than 10 minutes for the substantive program, but there are just a few points I want to make. Now, I followed the debate in Parliament last week, in this Parliament, on the Attorney General reference bill. Now, I listened to every word that was spoken on this bill in Parliament last week. Every word. Some of them not very pleasant words, including unpleasant words about myself. Let that slide for the moment. But having listened to the entire debate, I remain fortified in my view that the reference bill, which was passed into law, and that is now the Reference Act, is a worthy, worthwhile, and solid act, solid law that would serve the interests of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, during the debate, a question arose as to whether the Attorney General has the right to speak in Parliament. I would like to answer that question now. The Attorney General is referred to specifically in several sections of the Constitution, but the two sections I want to draw attention to are sections 24, subsection 3 of the Constitution of St. Vincent and Grenadines, which says, at any time when the office of Attorney General is a public office, the Attorney General shall, by virtue of holding or acting in that office, be a member of the House. And section 52(3) says the same thing about the Attorney General in terms of his membership of the government. It says, at any time when the office of Attorney General is a public office, the Attorney General shall, by virtue of holding or acting in that office, be a member of the Cabinet in addition to the ministers. So constitutionally, the Attorney General is a member of the House of Assembly. And being a member of the House of Assembly, he has full right to speak as any other member. He has voting rights like any other member, except on two matters. The Attorney General, who is a public officer, cannot vote in the House of Assembly on motions of no confidence in the government, and he cannot vote on motions to amend the Constitution. Apart from those two matters, the Attorney General, as a member of the Parliament, the House of Assembly, can take part as fully as any other member in speaking in the House of Assembly. And as it has crossed my mind, let me say this. Questions were raised by the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, alleging that he understands, or his understanding is that the government were trying to attack his citizenship of Canada and wanted to use this bill as a means of so doing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, for what it is worth, my considered legal opinion is that the leader of the opposition, being, in addition to citizenship in Barbados, being a citizen of Canada, does not violate any law or does not violate the Constitution of St. Vincent and Grenadines. Our Constitution permits a Commonwealth citizen to sit as a member of our Parliament. That is my interpretation of the Constitution of St. Vincent and Grenadines. So that from a legal and constitutional standpoint, I hold the view, based on my knowledge and research and reading, that one is permitted to be a citizen both of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Canada or any other Commonwealth country and sit in our Parliament. Now, as to the political wisdom of that, that is something else. That is a political question. But the legal and constitutional question is that nothing is wrong with Dr. Friday's dual citizenship, if indeed he holds dual citizenship. In the course of the debate on the bill in Parliament, questions were also raised about the no confidence motion, about which there was a debacle in January. As you all know, I spoke on that topic on several occasions, and let me thank those members of the House who referred kindly to the opinion I had given on this program on the question. I just want to say that some members of the House appeared not to understand that a no confidence motion is primarily a question of arithmetic. It is only secondarily a question of law or constitutionality. The question as to whether a motion of no confidence in a government can succeed is an arithmetic question, or I should say an arithmetical question. And the answer to that has to lie in what the members of parliament do in the House, not what they say. So that it doesn't matter that a motion of no confidence is brought against a government if the arithmetic doesn't support the motion. In other words, if those who bring the motion do not have a superiority of numbers to support them, the motion cannot succeed, no matter how much you talk. And therefore, I insist that the question of whether it is framed as a confidence motion in the positive or a no confidence motion in the negative, what matters is if you have the numbers to support the idea that the government has lost its majority. There was nothing in January to suggest that a majority of the elected members of parliament were going to vote against the government. And to me, that was the end of the story. I agree that it is a democratic right of an opposition to bring a motion of no confidence, but I also hold the view that it is also the democratic right of the government to amend that no confidence motion and make it a motion of confidence. Because what matters ultimately is whether at the end of the debate the opposition could show they had more elected members than the government. And that was never the case. And therefore it is sheer hypocrisy for anybody to pretend that the fact that there wasn't a full debate meant that somehow the legitimacy of the government has been successfully challenged. No way. If the numbers are there, you bring a motion of no confidence. But if you don't have the numbers, you are really just exercising your rights without any positive result to emerge from it. The reference bill has now become an act. When it is signed by the Governor General, it will become a law. When it is published in the Gazette, it would become a law in force. And I welcome that law, giving as it does the power to the Attorney General, led by Cabinet, to put questions of constitutional interpretation to the Court of Appeal. Some say it should be Cabinet advising him. He could do it on his own initiative. Well, let any Attorney General go and do that on his own initiative. And then see who will pay, who will sign the claim to pay the lawyers he engages. It has to be a decision taken by Cabinet. And the final point I would make in answer to something I heard in Parliament is that the Attorney General advises the government, not the opposition. So when it says the Attorney General is the advisor to a government, it doesn't mean he's the advisor to the opposition. He's the advisor to the Prime Minister and his cabinet of ministers and all the government bureaucracy. He may advise the opposition if he feels like, but he isn't bound to. Okay? So that is all from this program of The Law and You, program number 900. I look forward to being of further service to you. next week, Monday, DV, for another presentation in this public service nation building series, The Law and You. Do have a pleasant week, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, and may the good Lord continue to bless us all.
The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.